stop scrolling, because what you're about to hear is a true-to-life power thriller about money, ego, race, and revenge at the highest level of American wealth. And if you believe stories should expose how power really works behind velvet ropes, smash that subscribe button right now so you never miss a story like this again, because this one begins on a warm California night beneath crystal chandeliers and ends with a billionaire learning that arrogance can cost more than money. It can cost legacy, and the gala at the Belvedere estate was supposed to be flawless. A philanthropic spectacle overlooking the Pacific where hedge fund titans, tech royalty, senators, and media moguls sipped champagne beside an infinity pool that looked like it spilled into the ocean itself. And among the invited elite were Marcus Hale, the first black CEO to build a logistics tech empire valued north of $12 billion, and his wife Aisha Hale, a former civil rights attorney turned global education philanthropist, elegant, composed, and respected in rooms that once shut people like her out. And they arrived not as guests desperate for approval but as equals negotiating a landmark $1 billion infrastructure partnership with Preston Whitmore, an old-money billionaire whose family name was etched into museums, hospitals, and political campaigns, a man who smiled easily but listened poorly, and from the moment Aisha stepped onto the marble terrace in a midnight blue gown, Whitmore's gaze lingered too long, not with desire but with that cold appraisal reserved for people he believed were visiting his world on borrowed time. And early in the evening the tension hid behind polite laughter as Marcus discussed numbers with senators while Aisha spoke about scholarship pipelines for underserved communities. And Whitmore interrupted her twice with jokes that landed flat, dismissive comments about merit and pulling oneself up. And Aisha, seasoned in boardrooms that tested her patience, smiled and redirected. But the real fracture came when a photographer asked for a group photo by the pool, the flash popping as laughter echoed, and Whitmore, already loose with drink and ego, leaned in and said something under his breath about how activists always end up making a splash. And before Aisha could even process the insult, Whitmore's hand pressed against her shoulder in what he would later call a joke, a miscalculation that sent her heels slipping on the polished stone, her body tipping backward, arms flailing for balance that never came. And the world seemed to inhale as she fell into the pool with a sharp splash that cut through the music, water soaking silk, gasps rippling through the crowd, and Marcus froze for half a second that felt like a lifetime before racing forward. His heart pounding not with embarrassment but with fury, and his staff rushed to pull Aisha from the water. Whitmore laughed, actually laughed, hands raised as if applause were coming, muttering about people being too sensitive. And in that moment cameras were lowered, conversations died, and something ancient and ugly surfaced, because Aisha stood dripping beneath the lights, mascara untouched but dignity assaulted, and she said nothing, not a word, only met Marcus's eyes and nodded once. A silent language forged by years of knowing when to speak and when to let consequences speak louder. And Whitmore, misreading the silence as submission, waved a server over, ordered another drink, and told Marcus they'd talk business Monday. But Marcus's voice was steady when he replied that there would be no Monday conversation, that respect was not a line item. And Whitmore scoffed, reminding Marcus that the deal was already drafted, the funding essential, the leverage his, and for a moment the old script seemed ready to play out, the powerful humiliating and moving on. But the next morning the story did not disappear, because someone had leaked a 30-second video, not of the fall alone but of the shove, the laugh, the stillness afterward, and by noon hashtags trended, donors called, board members panicked, and Marcus made one call, not to a lawyer, not to a publicist, but to his operations team, instructing them to halt negotiations and redirect capital toward a rival consortium he had quietly cultivated for years, a consortium that included union pension funds, minority-owned banks, and a European infrastructure group eager to enter the U.S. market. And when Whitmore's office called demanding explanations, Marcus sent a single email stating the deal was canceled effective immediately due to material breach of ethical standards, and Whitmore exploded, threatening lawsuits, political retaliation, whispered campaigns. But what he didn't know was that Aisha had already moved, meeting privately with journalists, not to cry or rage but to contextualize, to explain how power masks cruelty as humor, how humiliation is weaponized, and how silence has costs and sponsors. Began withdrawing from Whitmore's foundation, museums quietly removed his name from upcoming galas, a senator returned a donation, and a university announced a review of funding sources, and still Whitmore believed he could muscle his way back, arranging a private meeting where he offered a hollow apology laced with blame, suggesting Aisha had overreacted. And that's when the final twist unfolded, because Aisha slid a folder across the table containing internal emails from Whitmore's own executives, documents she had obtained legally through whistleblowers who trusted her advocacy, emails detailing discriminatory practices, suppressed harassment claims, and strategic efforts to sideline minority partners after deals closed. And she told him calmly that the video was only the spark, that the fire had been smoldering for years, and that she would not negotiate dignity for dollars. And when the regulators announced a formal inquiry weeks later, Whitmore's net worth dipped, his social calendar emptied, and the $1 billion deal he thought he controlled became the symbol of his downfall, while Marcus and Aisha stood on a different stage months later breaking ground on a project that created tens of thousands of jobs. Marcus acknowledging in his speech that power is not proven by how high you stand but by how you treat someone when you think no one is watching, and Aisha closing with a line that echoed far beyond that first splash, that grace does not mean silence, and consequences are not cruelty, and if the story shook you, if it made you think about what really happens behind closed doors of wealth and influence, hit subscribe right now because the next story may be even closer to the truth than you think.